Shout out, finally, bro. This fucking shit did not want me to stream, bro. Shout out you guys who's popping. It's your boy. Be sure I get them subs up. If y'all new to the channel, bro, let's get them subs up, bro. We out here, man. We out here for real, for real.
But even then, you could see the edge that appears from the cracks of his surface. He's a little more father or mentor to teach him differently. And that's what makes the contrast between Dick and Jason so important, because Dick was the opposite. He was the angry one, the one who lost his parents, and for a long time he was dealing with grief, anger, and even depression. But despite that, Dick had control. He wasn't unruly because he had something Jason didn't. Stability before the trauma and proper guidance after it. His anger had somewhere to go. It got refined and controlled. Meanwhile, Jason didn't have that. Instead of learning how to control his emotions, he learned how to act on them. And over time, that difference starts to grow. Jason doesn't say that little boy he used to be. He starts.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without
Shout out,
knowing
shout
how
out,
to code.
shout out,
This is base 40.
I had to take him down.
You shattered his collarbone!
He's a drug-dealing pimp. I didn't think I had to prop up some pillars before I took him out.
This because what's the point of stopping someone if they're just gonna come back and do it again? What's the point of rules if they don't protect anyone? What's the point of holding back if innocent people keep suffering? Friends keep suffering, and nothing changes. Every action ends with the same result. More heartbreak, more stress, and more carnage. And this is exactly where the real conflict between Jason and Bruce starts. Because Bruce doesn't see it that way. He believes in restraint, in rules, in a system that even if flawed, shouldn't be crossed. Not due to something shallow like law or judgment, but to prevent yourself from becoming who you swore to stop. But Jason, he's looking at it.
So be sure I get them subs out here. We out here.
You start acting alone, start taking bigger risks, tortured and left to die. But in that moment, Jason isn't thinking about revenge. He isn't thinking that Bruce failed him. He's thinking about one thing. That Batman is going to fix this. Bruce
Shout out,
is
y'all.
going
Be
to
sure I
finally
get them
cross
subs
that
up.
line. Just this once. For him, for Barbara, and for everyone else who suffered or died by his hand. Because after everything, all the fighting, all the loyalty, and all the pain he's endured, that's what Jason believes he's worth. When he dies, he doesn't die angry. He dies believing. But when he comes back, he learns something that changes everything. The Joker is still alive. The man who tortured him, killed him, and broke him completely was allowed to live.
Shout
And that
out,
right there is
Philippines
what actually
QC
brings
Chang.
Jason. Bruce's decision to spare the man who killed his son. When Jason comes back, he isn't confused. He came back certain. Everything he believed before is confirmed. So this time he doesn't hesitate, nor does he hold back. Everything that was building before, the anger,
Shout out,
the
Chad. Be sure I
frustration,
sum up,
the
man.
need
It's
for
crazy.
control seeping out, is all still there. The only difference is, now there's nothing and no one trying to reel it in. And that's why Red Hood isn't reckless like your run-of-the-mill anti-hero or supervillain. He's controlled, calculated, and deliberate. He doesn't decide to justify crime. He decides to control all of it. Because to him, there's no stop before it evolves into something untamable. Jason didn't lose his morals.
Thank you guys for 1496. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We drop content daily and we go live every single day. Be sure to sub up, man. Let's get them subs up, bro. We're out here today.
Willing to do what Batman won't.
Let's get them
And this
subs
is
out
exactly
here. We're
what
out
makes him
here.
so dangerous. Not because he's out of control, but because he fully believes he's right. When
Wait a
Jason
minute, bro.
finally
It's like Jason like an anti-superhero as well. Hold up. What's this guy's name? Red Hood. Hold up. Is Red Wood? Oh, Red Hood. Red Hood. Red Hood. The super villain. Oh yeah. Yeah, Red Hood is not strictly a villain. He's a morally complex anti-hero who has committed villainous acts but also fights for justice on his own terms. Alright, dope.
something he can just point to and blame.
Please, I can help
Shout
you.
out, chat.
I know what happened.
Oh, you got to talking with Raish, huh? Does it make it easier for you to think that my little dip in his fountain of youth turned me rabid? Or is this just the real me?
Everything Bruce is seeing now was always there, and that's what Bruce can't accept. Because if Jason was always like this, he didn't just fail because of what happened, he failed because he never saw it. He failed as a father trying to raise his son properly, and that's where the real conflict arises. Because to Jason, this was never about Joker, it was about Bruce. Because in Jason's mind, there's only one thing that would prove everything, that Bruce would kill Joker. Because to Jason, this isn't about revenge, it's about value. It's about being worthy enough for Bruce to choose him over the rules. But Bruce doesn't see it that way.
Life isn't a game.
And that's what makes Jason talk so important, because his story isn't about what happened to him, it's about what was already there. It was also about what happens when no one teaches you how to deal with it. Unresolved anger doesn't just disappear on its own. You need to learn from it and understand it. Because if you don't and can't control it, it grows quietly like a boiling pot of water overflowing. They fall apart at once, they change slowly, and sometimes they don't become something new. They just become more of what they already were. This Jason was lucky. He had the release of death, but not every version of him does. Some of them don't get out. They get taken, and they get broken over and over for months until what's left of them isn't even trying to understand anymore. He just wants the person he deems responsible to burn.
No, please, please, no.
Thank y'all for watching. Oh my god, man, I can't believe how fast we're growing. God damn, y'all.
That's crazy, bro. That is crazy. Oh, my boy's video is dropping. Pray for Megan Thee Stallion. Our boyfriend is cheating on her. Suga. I don't care about Megan. Megan put Tory in jail, bro. Man, I don't care about that. Man, I don't care. I don't care about her, man. She put my boy in jail, boy. She put my boy in jail, boy. What is there to talk about, bro? What's happening here? Shout out, Chad. Be sure I get some subs up.
Works in South Africa, how to use one to boost your long-term retirement savings.
I don't know why is this shorty crying, bro. And I can't even show it.
Dictator Aaron.
Chill him. We're just being content, bro. A lot of shit going on.
Blame the chat too. Shout out, y'all. Oh, even DDG's live, eh, man. Competition is heavy, I see. Shout out, y'all. Be sure I get them subs up, bro. Competition is heavy, bro. Too smart to be happy. The burden of intelligence. Sorry.
Depression doesn't choose the weak. It chooses those who see too much, feel too much, think too much. Itachi was a genius, and that's exactly what destroyed him. Today you're going to understand why high intelligence and deep suffering go hand in hand. Itachi Uchiha was 4 years old when he first witnessed war. Not in a book, not in a story, in real life. People dying right in front of him. And while other kids his age couldn't even process what was happening, he was already trying to make sense of it all. At 7, he was thinking like a Hokage. At 13, he wiped out his entire clan. And throughout his life, he carried a weight no one should ever carry alone. Why does someone so intelligent, so capable, so talented, end up so alone, so empty, and so destroyed from the inside? In this video, you're going to understand the psychological cost Itachi paid, and he paid it dearly, for seeing reality without filters way too early. Itachi grew up in the middle of the Third Ninja War. He didn't choose that. Nobody chooses.
Man, the burden of intelligence. It's quite heavy, man. I won't lie, bro. The burden of intelligence is quite heavy, but you just gotta deal with it, bro. You know, man. Intelligence is a gift and also a curse, bro. The thing about intelligence, bro, like intelligence is a gift and a curse, dog. It's a double-edged sword. It can help you and it can also destroy you, bro.
To be born into
That's
a
the
war.
problem.
But the problem wasn't just being there. The problem was understanding what was happening before he was ready for it. When you're exposed to trauma and death in childhood, your brain doesn't process it normally. You don't have the emotional infrastructure yet. You don't have psychological defenses. So what happens? You mature by force, too fast. And that maturation isn't healthy, it's survival. Itachi started questioning the meaning of life at 4 years old. He'd climb up a cliff alone and just stand there, looking down, thinking about jumping. Not necessarily because he wanted to die, but because he already saw no purpose. He was already existentially lost before he even knew what that meant. And here's where something important comes in. Highly intelligent people ask big questions way too early. Why do people die? Why is there war? What's the point of any of this? These are questions a 4-year-old mind shouldn't be asking, because even if you're smart enough to ask the question, you don't have the emotional maturity to handle the answer.
Yeah.
Time passed, and then something came along that would completely change Itachi's life. Sasuke's birth. For the first time, Itachi found something that made sense. Someone to protect. A real reason to keep going. But the weight was already there, and it was only going to get heavier. There's a concept called intellectual overexcitability. It's when your mind never shuts off. You overthink. You overanalyze. You anticipate scenarios that haven't even happened yet. You see problems nobody else sees. And that's not a superpower. It's constant mental exhaustion. Itachi had this at the highest level. He saw every side of every situation. He could understand the village, the clan, the enemies, his father's point of view. And when you see everything, you realize a brutal truth. There's no right choice. There are only bad choices and worse choices. That paralyzes you because
Fuck. That's crazy, dog. Like that's flipping crazy. Shout out y'all. Be sure I get them subs up, bro. That's flipping crazy, bro. That's flipping crazy, bro. There is no right or wrong. And this is the reason why, bro, like highly like intelligent people, like they just become evil, bro. Like it's very hard like for someone who has a high level of intelligence, dog, to be morally sound. Like it's very hard for them because, oh, bro, like as like he's saying, like there's no right or wrong. There's just bad choices and even worse choices, right? So the problem with people like extremely intellectual, dog, like they have no moral capacity for anything. They're just heartless, bro. Like they're just heartless. And that comes with the fact that you see the world for what it is. You know what I'm saying? So as I said, double-edged sword, man, a blessing and a curse.
you get stuck in infinite analysis, trying to find a way out that doesn't exist. And here's another thing. Highly intelligent people learn patterns way too fast. For most people, a bad experience is just that, a bad experience. But for someone like Itachi, one
Shout out,
experience becomes a
Mr.
deep belief,
Needle
becomes
X.
rooted fear, becomes automatic psychological defense. He saw violence once and learned the world is cruel. Lost people and learned that attachment hurts. Got manipulated and learned that trust is dangerous. Each of these lessons was absorbed too fast, too early, and without emotional support to process it in a healthy way. So what does he do? He disconnects, creates emotional distance. Not because he's naturally cold, but because feeling was simply too dangerous. And this has a name in psychology: emotional detachment as a defense mechanism. On the outside, Itachi is everything the ninja world expects from a prodigy. Calm, controlled, efficient, lethal when necessary. Never complains, never asks for help, never shows weakness. He's the perfect shinobi, and that's not by accident. His father, Fugaku, valued performance, not vulnerability. Whenever Itachi was struggling, his father ignored the suffering and
Shout out,
demanded
chat. Be
results.
sure I get
The
themselves
village
up.
needed a soldier, not a scared kid. The entire ninja system glorifies one thing: silent sacrifice. So Itachi becomes exactly that. He transforms himself into the perfect tool, the weapon that doesn't question orders, the genius who solves alone problems that should belong to an entire village. But inside, he's falling apart. He has nobody. Not really. Shisui was the only person who understood him, and when Shisui dies, Itachi loses the last real emotional connection he had. From that point on, he stops being a person. He becomes a mission. And when you reduce your existence to just that, to fulfilling objectives, protecting others, serving a greater purpose, you completely lose touch with who you actually are. There's an important psychological concept here. When you focus too much on external missions to escape internal pain, you're using work and duty as emotional anesthesia, and it works. Until the point where you realize there's nothing left of you underneath it all. Itachi's deepest wound isn't that he killed his clan. It isn't that he was manipulated. It isn't even the loneliness. It's the impossibility of being right. He was put in a situation where any choice would make him guilty. If he didn't kill the clan, a civil war would destroy the village and kill thousands, including Sasuke. If he did kill them, he'd become a monster who murdered his own family. There was no clean way out. And for a mind like his, logical, analytical, always searching for meaning, that's pure psychological torture. Because no matter how much he thinks, no matter how many angles he analyzes,
no
the
way
answer
out,
stays
bro.
the same. There
Shout
is
out
no
Chip,
good
shout
answer.
out,
He chose
man.
the lesser evil, decided to carry the hatred, the guilt, the rejection alone, decided to become the villain so Sasuke could be the hero. He literally erased his own existence as a person and spent the rest of his life paying for a choice that should never have been his to make. After doing that, he had nowhere left to go. He couldn't be a brother anymore, couldn't be a son, couldn't be anyone's friend. He had to maintain the lie until the end. So he joins the Akatsuki, becomes an actual criminal, completely distances himself from everything that once meant something. He traumatizes Sasuke on purpose, uses Tsukuyomi on him to make his brother relive the massacre over and over, just to make sure Sasuke hated him enough. Because in his mind, Sasuke needed a villain to overcome, needed hatred as fuel. But what he didn't realize, or didn't want to realize, is that you don't build healthy strength on top of trauma. You build rage, vengeance, and an endless cycle of pain. So what does all of this mean? Itachi is the perfect portrait of something psychology has been trying to explain for decades: the link between high intelligence and depression. Studies show that people with an IQ above 130 are 182% more likely to develop mood disorders like depression. And it's no coincidence. When you're highly intelligent, you remove the filters that keep most people functioning. You don't accept simple answers. You can't ignore contradictions. You see the problems of the world with a clarity that hurts.
Shout out for Shirmanim.
Realism.
Be sure I
The
get them
idea that
subs up
depressed
if you're new to the
people,
channel,
paradoxically,
man. Let's get
see
them subs
reality
up,
more
man.
accurately. They don't have optimism bias. They don't delude themselves with empty hopes. They see things as they are. And Itachi saw everything as it was. He saw that the ninja system was flawed, that peace was temporary,
Shout out
that his
for Shir. Be
choices
sure I
wouldn't
get them
truly
subs
save
up,
anyone, just delay the suffering. But here's the problem. Clarity without hope becomes paralysis. Truth without personal purpose becomes despair. And that's exactly what happened to him. He had all the intelligence in the world, all the analytical ability, but he didn't have emotional support. He didn't have anyone to tell him, you don't have to carry this alone. He didn't have the psychological infrastructure to process the weight he was carrying. So he entered a cycle: excessive thinking, isolation, more thinking, more pain. And when you're in that cycle, intelligence doesn't save you. It pulls you deeper. Back to the opening question. Why does someone so intelligent end up so destroyed? Because intelligence isn't protection. Intelligence is exposure. You see the problems before others do. You feel the weight of decisions more intensely. You question everything, including the meaning of your own existence. And if you don't have emotional support, if you don't have someone to help you process it, you get lost. Itachi was brilliant, but he was alone. And loneliness plus intelligence plus trauma is a destructive combination. He spent his entire life trying to protect others while completely forgetting to protect himself. And in the end, when he dies and is resurrected by Edo Tensei, we see for the first time Itachi without the mask. And you know what he says? That he was wrong. That he could have chosen differently. That he didn't need to put everything on his shoulders alone. But it was already too late. Itachi's story isn't about being a hero or a villain. It's about what happens when you mature too fast, carry too much weight, and see the truth too early. It's about the silent price of intelligence without emotional infrastructure. And it's a reminder, brilliance doesn't save you from pain. Sometimes, it just makes you feel it more intensely.
Damn, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy, gang. That's flipping crazy, bro. When did you? This list also looks like a dope video. Let's hop on this video and see what's happening.
Every trend starts somewhere, usually right here.
Hey, at
There's a
least
moment
it's over.
where the pain is too great to be felt. So the mind looks for a way out. Obito found his, and took the entire ninja world with him. Obito Uchiha is perhaps the most misunderstood character in Naruto. Most people believe he only broke because of Rin, and that's fair, because on the surface, that really is what it looks like. But when we take a deeper look at the character, we realize that Rin wasn't the cause. She was the last drop in a glass that had been full for a long time.
That's crazy. Shout out, y'all. Be sure to get them subs up.
Obito had a rough childhood. He was an orphan, and he also didn't have the recognition that other Uchihas had. He was clumsy, he showed up late to missions, he fell behind in training. In a clan like the Uchiha, where image is built on prestige and power, he was the exception. Obito was the black sheep of the Uchiha clan. In the ninja world, those who break the rules and laws are regarded as scum. But those who abandon even one of their friends are worse than scum. That was the only philosophy Obito carried. The most important thing to him was protecting the people by his side, regardless of whether that meant breaking the rules, regardless of whether that got in the way of the mission, regardless of whether other ninjas would think of him as trash. The only code Obito lived by was putting his friends' lives first. That mindset goes against what elite ninjas are usually expected to be. They need to stay cold to get the mission done, especially during a time as war-heavy as the one he lived in. And even with that mindset, even without being considered a good ninja, his dream was to become Hokage. In Obito's mind, becoming Hokage was the only way to prove his own existence to the world. To prove that someone who had been looked down on, written off as a failure, the black sheep of the Uchiha.
Shout out, y'all. What is the Hokage again? Let me type Hokage. Hokage meaning. Hokage literally means fire shadow and refers to the leader of Kono Hokage, the hidden leaf village in the Naruto. Also, the leader. It's basically the leader.
Clan to become the strongest ninja in the village. His self-worth didn't come from within. It depended completely on the outside. He needed Rin's admiration. He needed the rivalry with Kakashi, because the dream of becoming Hokage was the physical form of all that. The woman he loved would admire him, and he would be better than the genius and talented Kakashi. Psychologically, that kind of validation is very fragile, because when the external motivation disappears, there's nothing left on the inside to hold up those drives. And that's exactly what happened at the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. But we'll get there in a second. What a lot of people overlook is that Obito already showed up to the Battle of the Bridge carrying some psychological scars. He was 12 years old and already a war soldier. He and Kakashi had already been through so many traumas up to that point. They had already killed. They had already watched friends die. The fact that they had been at war since childhood left deep marks. When Obito sees Kakashi killing Rin, he didn't just lose the person he loved the most. He saw just how cruel reality could be. Losing her didn't create Obito's emptiness, but it revealed and amplified something that was already there. Rin was the proof that there was something good worth protecting, that there was someone who would cheer for him when he finally became Hokage. She was the only person who believed in his dream and made every sacrifice worth it. Without her, everything fell apart all at once.
Why did Kakashi kill her?
And it's exactly in that state that Madara shows up. There's a concept in psychology called a refractory state, which is when a person is in acute grief or under extreme emotional stress. In those situations, the ability for rational judgment is severely compromised. The mind is so overwhelmed that it accepts any justification that promises to ease the pain. Madara knew that, or at least he operated that way. When he saved Obito from the rock, he didn't force the boy to follow the Moon's Eye plan. He didn't call in any debt of gratitude. The only thing that happened there was Zetsu explaining that there was a reality where everything could be perfect, exactly the way he wanted.
まあ簡単に言うとね、本当の世の中の嫌なことをして、いいことだら
Why
けの
does this guy
夢の
look like
中に
this though? Why the fuck does he look like this? Why? You look like a freaking monster, gang.
逃げちゃおうって話、
Sis.
夢だから。なんだって思い通
Oh,
り、
it's
死
a
んだ
dream.
人だって生きてることにできる。
Madara knew that Obito would come back, because it was all planned so that he would leave at just the right moment to witness the tragedy.
助けてくれたことには感謝する。けど俺は行く。行かなきゃならねえから。
お前は焦りすぎる。感謝はまだ早いかもしれんぞ。
多分ここには二度と来ねえ。一応礼は言った。もう行く。
お前はここへ帰ってくる。その時こそ本当の礼をもらう。
Madara used the perfect manipulation. He didn't try to convince Obito with logic. He used pain as currency. He planted the seed of a perfect reality in the boy's head, where even dead people could live again, and then made him watch with his own eyes as his best friend killed the woman he loved. He introduced the existence of a cure that only he had, and then caused the pain. The Moon's Eye plan wasn't a proposal for domination. It was an anesthetic. And Obito didn't join because he wanted power. He joined because it was either that or keep feeling all of that alone with nothing to hold on to. Because to him, the only reality he knew without Rin was made of emptiness and pain. From that point on, he starts building an ideological dissociation. Unlike what a lot of people think, he didn't develop multiple personalities. There's no amnesia, there's no blackout between between Toby and Obito. He remembers everything. What he does is wear masks in a completely conscious way, as he needed to distance himself from who he was to avoid feeling the weight of what he was doing. So he takes on other identities like Toby, Madara, Nobody. The clearest example of that is probably Toby, the comedic, carefree, seemingly shallow persona. It was a caricature of the cheerful boy Obito used to be, but emptied of any vulnerability.
サスケの勝ちだよ。内海たちは死亡。信じられないなんてね。
思った通りだ。
And you know what one of the most ironic parts of this character is? Obito was extremely empathetic. He helped strangers for no reason. He naturally put himself in other people's shoes. He had a real gift for understanding how someone else was feeling. A clear example of that is when he stands up for Kakashi's father. Sakumo Hatake was a legendary ninja on the level of his son, but during a crucial mission for Konoha, he found himself in a dilemma between saving his companions from death or pushing through with the mission. He chose his companions, who then turned around and crucified him for not prioritizing the mission's completion, which led Sakumo into a deep depression. Unable to bear the weight of isolation and dishonor, he ended up taking his own life, which turned Kakashi into a slave to the rules. Obito could feel the weight that had on Kakashi and would reassure him that his father had actually been a hero, that he would have been trash if he had abandoned his friends. And it was exactly that ability to understand someone else's pain that Madara redirected.
Man, this video,
Depression
it's not
doesn't
like the
choose the
first
weak,
one.
it
This video is
chooses
not
those
that
who
late.
see too much, feel too.
That video is not that late, man. Seven addiction God allows only in chosen ones. Vegeta inferiority complex. Okay, wait. Shout out Azos Kamis, shout out D, shout out y'all. Be sure to get themselves up. What's poppin', y'all? What's poppin'? We out here
Imagine
for
trying your
one.
hardest at something and barely being good at it. Then someone else shows up, does half the work, and somehow they're better than you. Not because they're smarter or necessarily trade harder, just because it comes naturally to them. And no matter how hard you push, you'll never catch up. That is Vegeta's entire life. Vegeta is
Shout out Dean and shout out Azos.
bred for combat since birth. And then he meets Goku, a supposed low-class Saiyan, a nobody, someone who should have been beneath him. But Goku turns out to be stronger. That begs the question, does it even matter if Vegeta manages to become stronger? Because it's not like Vegeta's always the weaker man. It's so much more than just being the better fighter. It is also about how each fighter carries themselves throughout their progressions. This destroys Vegeta psychologically. He has nightmares about Goku. Literal nightmares where Goku is standing over him, unreachable. He obsesses. He trains until his body breaks. He pushes himself to the edge of death, over and over, trying to close a gap that only seems to widen. That right there is not a usual rivalry. That's an inferiority complex.
Goku is
And once
too
you realize
crazy.
that uncomfortable truth
How you
behind
today?
that,
Bro,
might see
I'm
parts
okay,
of
bro. I'm
Vegeta's
okay,
life in
man.
yours. It's about what happens.
How's you
when
doing,
you're
my
really
G?
good
I'm
when someone
chilling, bro.
else
How's
is
you
just
doing?
better. When no matter how hard you work, you'll never be the best. And you start to wonder if you even matter.
Strength is the only thing that matters in this world. Everything else is just a delusion for the weak.
To understand Vegeta's inferiority complex, you need to go back to the beginning. Vegeta was born as a prince, the son of the king of Saiyans, an elite warrior from birth. But honestly, none of that mattered, because Frieza controlled everything. Frieza took over the planet and decided that the Saiyans were his to rule over. That's what turned the Saiyans, and therefore Vegeta, into a slave. And to further demonstrate his power, his dominance, Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta on a whim because he decided the Saiyans were too dangerous to keep around. And Vegeta, he could do absolutely nothing about that. Vegeta's father, his people, his home, all of that
Everything,
was
yeah.
gone. He survived only because he happened to be on another planet when it happened. So Vegeta grew up knowing he was inferior, beneath Frieza, powerless to stop him. Only a
That's crazy.
miracle like the Dragon Balls could grant him a win at that point. He himself, though, was just too weak. But among the Saiyans, he was still the prince. And he clung on that, not because it meant anything. His kingdom to rule over one day was destroyed. His people were dead, but because it was all he had left, that title was the only thing separating him from just being another one of Frieza's soldier. So he held onto his pride like a lifeline. Although deep down he probably knew that title had little to no meaning anymore. So when Vegeta arrives on Earth, he's still clinging to that pride. The Z fighters are weaker than him, way weaker. And Vegeta, he loves it. He watches Nappa terrorize them, including the 5-year-old Gohan, and enjoys every second. He knew he could kill them at any point if he wanted to do so, but he'd rather display his dominance by letting his subordinate terrorize weaker people. Why? Because for once, he is the one in control. He is the one with the power. And then Goku
Vegeta's
arrives.
cold, I won't lie,
Vegeta
man.
knows who he is. Kakarot, a low-class Saiyan sent to Earth as a baby. Low class equals weak, worthless, beneath him. And on top of that, Goku failed his mission. He was supposed to conquer Earth, and instead he's protecting it. So in Vegeta's mind, Goku is a joke, a clown as he would put it. When Goku cripples Nappa, Vegeta doesn't even flinch, just kills Nappa off, gruesomely so, just to prove a point. Apparently, this is what happens when you lose to trash. Vegeta expects to crush Goku easily. And the crazy thing is, Vegeta technically won the fight against Goku. But to his surprise, it wasn't an easy fight by any means. Vegeta had to go all out, using methods like the Great Ape transformation. Didn't think he would need this against somebody like Goku. For the first time, a no-class Saiyan, someone who should have been beneath him, pushed him to his limits. And he hated that. On Namek, Vegeta experienced a crucial turning point. Goku got stronger, like a lot stronger, to the point where he became unrecognizable to Vegeta. Goku was in a complete different league. Raccoon, the opponent which Vegeta struggled against, severely gets one-shot by Goku, and the Ginyu Force, which Vegeta spoke very highly of, were nothing to Goku. And Vegeta could not believe it. It got to the point where Vegeta thought Goku was a Super Saiyan before he actually achieved it, a supposed myth at the point of the series. Meanwhile, Vegeta's getting tortured to death by Frieza. The same Frieza who enslaved him as a child, who destroyed his planet, who killed his father even. Vegeta swore he'd be the one to avenge the Saiyans, to kill Frieza himself, but instead, he's dying, powerless, again. And in his final moments, Vegeta does something he's never done before. He cries, out of pure desperation and terror. The proud prince, the ruthless warrior, begging Goku to finish what he couldn't. And Goku absolutely did that. Not Vegeta, Goku. Vegeta survives due to the Dragon Balls, but everything has changed. Frieza got defeated, but not by Vegeta's hand. The Saiyans are avenged, but not by their prince. Goku did it, not him. And Vegeta has to live with that. He's not the strongest, he's not the ruler, he's not even the one who saved his own people. He's second place, always. And from that moment on, Vegeta becomes obsessed. Not with being strong, not with revenge, with never being beneath someone again. Because he knows what that feels like. He's lived it his entire life. And he'll do anything, and I mean anything, to make sure it never happens again.
Mind your tongue. I'm not an imbecile. I know when I'm being patronized, and I don't care for the suggestion that you're stronger than me. Yeah, I wasn't really suggesting. What?
The Cell Saga is where Vegeta's obsession fully reveals itself. Not just his desire to be strong, his need to prove that he's better than Goku. And it absolutely destroys him. At this point in the series, there's one thing that separates Goku from Vegeta. The ability to become a Super Saiyan. It's not just about power. It symbolizes that Vegeta couldn't achieve the things Goku did. A low-class Saiyan, by the way. And Vegeta, the prince, the elite, can't. That alone is unbearable.
That shit fucked with him,
But then
yeah.
it gets worse.
That shit
Trunks
fucked with
arrives.
him.
A stranger, a mysterious kid, and he transformed into a Super Saiyan right in front of Vegeta. And the series did a wonderful job at that point of displaying what big of a deal it was to be a Super Saiyan. Frieza, the being who terrorized Vegeta his entire life, is terrified because Trunks has the same golden aura, the same power that killed him before as Goku did. And Vegeta, he just watches. When Goku arrives and also transforms, the two Super Saiyans face each other. Golden, powerful, untouchable. Everybody was impressed by
Goku's too much.
Vegeta, at that point, not even looking like a
I think
warrior.
Goku's is the first one to even achieve like God mode.
And he is fuming. Not with fear like Frieza was, but with jealousy. That very interaction between Trunks and Goku, with Trunks also announcing that a new enemy will terrorize Earth, gave Vegeta enough drive trying to catch up to Goku and become a Super Saiyan himself. When watching this series from a passive perspective, Vegeta's training arc may seem cool and motivating. Someone put this all into becoming better and whatnot. Goku trained in 100 times normal gravity. Vegeta was 3 times as much. Goku is a Super Saiyan, so Vegeta deludes himself into being a Super Saiyan himself, even though he is not. It's the same pattern as before, the same desperate chase. First Frieza, now Goku. And Goku is not even his enemy, but from the way he keeps risking his life in these training sessions and refuses to fully recover, training with multiple fractures on his body. He is training like his life is depending on it. How he even dreams about Goku and Trunks overpowering him, turning into Super Saiyans, mean-mugging him like they are trying to mock him. Still motivating? This is pure obsession if anything, and it's concerning. And the worst thing is, that rivalry seems very one-sided, because Vegeta does surpass Goku in this arc. He eventually becomes a Super Saiyan. Goku's reaction is very much unlike Vegeta's though. When Vegeta and Trunks enter the hyperbolic time chamber, they have a full year together, father and son, alone, training side by side, and Vegeta absolutely ignores him. He doesn't train with Trunks. He trains alone for an entire year, because being stronger than Goku matters more than his own son, apparently. That's how deep the obsession goes. When Vegeta emerges from the time chamber, he's stronger than anyone, including Goku. For the first time, Vegeta is the strongest. When he fights Cell, he dominates completely. Cell is terrified, the Z fighters are in awe. This is Vegeta's moment. You would think he uses his newly gained strength to beat Cell and save the Earth. Instead, he wants to mock him, make him suffer, show him that he is the ultimate warrior. And when he had the chance to finally finish off Cell, he lets him get stronger, because Vegeta wanted to ride the wave of being stronger than Goku for a little longer, accomplishing something that Goku hasn't, which led to him largely underestimating Cell. And if you watch the series, you know how that ended. Arguably Vegeta's biggest fumble, all because he was blinded by his own ego.
Yeah, could have just finished Cell off, bro.
Could stop his foolery. Meanwhile, Goku experience in the time chamber completely different. He actually trains with Gohan, not alone, together. They bond, they grow, they actually enjoy it. When they come out, they are both monsters. But here is the key difference.
Gohan is the most disappointing character in Dragon Ball Z, bro. Potential wasted, bro.
Train obsessively, desperate,
wasted
sacrificing
potential.
his relationship with his son just to be stronger than Goku. Goku trained calmly, joyfully, with his son. And Goku still comes out on top. Even when Vegeta does everything right, even when he briefly surpasses Goku,
Shoutouts.
it does not matter. Goku
Youngster
always
Gaming,
ends
shout out
up
Youngster
in the
Gaming. Be sure
spotlight.
y'all sub
And
up.
I'll just address the elephant in the room right away. Gohan becomes stronger than Goku in the Cell arc. We know that. But only Goku had that information. Not even you as the viewer could have assumed it at that point of the series. So let's put this under the rug for now. Goku ends up sacrificing himself to save the Earth. And this causes Vegeta to giving up fighting entirely. Think about that. The Prince of all Saiyans, the warrior who trained until his body broke.
Be sure y'all sub up, chat.
sacrificed
Be sure I get them
everything
subs up.
to be the strongest. He quits
Shout out
because
Ma.
Goku is gone.
Hiru
That's
is
how
there's a lot of
one-sided
guys
his
who
rivalry
have edits in their name.
Vegeta's entire motivation, his entire identity was built around surpassing Goku. And when Goku was gone, Vegeta had nothing left. Because no matter how strong Vegeta became, Goku was always the one who saved the Earth.
How sad, bro. No matter how hard Vegeta tries, he'll always be below Goku, man. A romance am I? A romance. I'm not really an M9 fan, but let's give it a try. I'm not really an M9 person. Plus it's romance ish. Plus it's romance. I'm not a big fan of romance. Plus I think if I watch it, YouTube is gonna flag it or something. Jesus. Jesus.
女の子は好きな人の前では天使にも小悪魔にもなります。あまねくんと一緒だから。
Ow, no, hell no. Oh hell nah, like no. Like this is some girly stuff. This is some girly stuff. This is some girly stuff. Drake is broke. Nah, that's cap. Hey, bro, if Drake is broke, dog, bro, how are we gonna get money for? If Drake is broke, if Drake had 400 million and he's broke, bro, it's chai for us. It's chai. It's chai for us. But that's girly stuff, though. I'm not really into romance. I'm not really into romance. I'm not really into romance. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not really into romance like that. But I'm sure it's a good series. But I like romance. I romance. I don't know, man. I don't watch M9 totally. So hey, now I have to watch a romantic M9 series. Ish. Yeah, ish. That's something else. That's something else. That's something else, man. Shaolin monks knew something about strength. What's that?
Their body weight on one finger, and he built this strength without ever touching this.
Shout out, chat. Be sure I get them subs up.
Turn your trading into rewards.
Season 1 is wholesome. Recommend something else. I'm not really an M9 person. I'd be lying to you. I'm not really an M9 person.
Supporting his entire body weight on one finger, and he built this strength without ever touching a weight, drinking a protein shake, or taking a single supplement. In fact, the methods Shaolin monks use to develop their strength are so different from modern training that most people wouldn't even recognize them as exercise. Today, if you want to get strong, you're told you need heavy weights, protein supplements, complex training splits, and cutting-edge equipment. But for over 1,500 years, Shaolin monks have been building levels of strength that seem physically impossible. Using none of these things, they look lean, almost frail. You'd walk past them on the street and never give them a second glance. But these men could uproot 770-pound trees with their bare hands, pull out thousands of rusted nails with their fingers,
What?
and perform feats of strength that still baffle scientists today. So how did they do it? What did these monks know about building strength that we've completely forgotten? The answer isn't what you think, and it challenges everything modern fitness culture tells us about how strength is built. Because while we're focused on muscle size, Shaolin monks were focused on something completely different. Let me show you what they knew. When a young monk arrived at the Shaolin temple, one of the first things he was assigned was a tree. Not to climb, not to chop down, to pull out of the ground. Every single day, the monk would wrap his arms around that tree and try to uproot it. He'd squeeze, he'd pull, he'd strain with everything he had. For months, nothing would happen. For years, that tree wouldn't budge an inch. But the monk kept pulling, day after day, year after year. And here's what's brilliant about this. As the monk grew, the tree grew alongside him. The resistance increased naturally, progressively, perfectly matched to his developing strength. Eventually, after years of daily practice, he could shake the trunk hard enough to drop a few leaves.
then more leaves, then branches, and finally, after perhaps a decade of daily effort, he could uproot the entire tree.
10 years. Yeah.
Some monks uprooted trees weighing over 770 pounds with their bare hands, no equipment, just years of consistent, patient practice. Over a span of many years, a student built immense physical strength in their chest, arms, stomach, and back. Strength that went deeper than muscle, into tendons, bones, and connective tissue. But it gets even more extreme. To build finger strength, monks would take 108 nails and drive them into a wooden plank. Every single day, they'd practice pulling them out using only 3 fingers, the thumb, index, and middle finger. When that became easy, they'd switch to their weaker fingers, the ring finger and pinky. When that became easy, the nails would be driven deeper into the wood. And here's where it gets insane. After completing the first stage, the nails were sprinkled with water and left to rust. Advanced students would work toward pulling out 1,000 rusted nails. The rust made them harder to grip, caused their skin to blister and crack, made every pull excruciating. Masters of this technique could remove rusted nails with just 2 fingers. Some could do it with just 1. In combat,
That's
this meant the
crazy.
Shaolin monks' fingers were so incredibly
Shout
strong
out, chat. Be sure
that
to
if
get
they got
themselves
hold of
up.
you, there was no wriggling free. They could find vulnerable nerves and pressure points.
That's crazy, y'all. Who's this? Shout out, y'all. Be sure to get themselves up, bro.
Do you ever find yourself being drawn to a character whilst being unable to really explain why? For me, that character was Toji. There's just something about him that goes far beyond just his physique. And that's definitely part of his appeal, but there are countless characters in anime with just as much muscle that simply don't hit the same as Toji. Because what Toji represents is a side of us that we don't really like to admit to. The side that wants to prove the world that they're wrong about us, that we will or have already turned ourselves into something that has exceeded their expectations of us. And obviously for some people, that can be quite a dark thing. Toji obviously endured a lot of abuse from his family. For some people, it's simply others who have tried to bring them down or look down on them, and I've had phases like that, right? And in the short term, like, it's kind of natural and fine, even beneficial to an extent, provided you heed the warning that Toji's conclusion gives, that it will likely never be enough. Our first introduction to him comes at the end of Season 2's first episode, where he immediately catches our interest due to denouncing the name Zenin and claiming he goes by Fushiguro now. Obviously 2 surnames we're very familiar with through Maki and Megumi, but I think the fact that he's gambling in his next appearance is actually quite significant, as after all you'd probably agree that, for some people, gambling is kind of this desperate man's attempt to change his fate, quickly and effortlessly, as opposed to finding a more productive, sustainable way to do so. But you'd also probably agree that on the surface, Toji does not seem to fit this description at all. He clearly trained exceptionally hard to be as skilled as he is, capable of taking on the job of an assassin and breaking away from the Zenin clan, except he hasn't. Despite that iconic line of the one who left it all behind, certainly at this point in time, I don't think Toji has escaped the Zenin clan's curse. He's still very much bound by his fate being born into it, and much of how he acts is because of his hatred towards them. He's still fighting that fate, hence he's still gambling, still looking
Shout
for a
out,
quick
y'all. Let's
way
get
to break
themselves up.
free, and I'll come back to why in his fight against Gojo. Speaking of which, after being given the mission, we see that he understands Gojo's strength and recognizes that he needs to wear him down first. displaying a level of rationality that the others who challenged Gojo in this arc lacked. And I think this is another of the more simple reasons why we like Toji. You know, he's smart, right? There's far more to it than that, as we'll come to. But I think part of it is honestly just he's smart, strong, disciplined. He just has these very admirable traits. And with a name like Sorcerer Killer, the suspense only builds over who the hell is this guy? How does he know Megami? How does he know exactly what Gojo's abilities are? And what are his abilities? He doesn't show up for a while after this, but we know that whilst the gang are enjoying their happy beach day, there's this threat
Shoutouts.
background. But we still fall for Toji's trap in
My
the same way as
hell
Gojo. We kind of
cool
forget about him and
Junzik.
so our guard
Shout
is
out,
down
Brody.
as they re-enter Jutsu
Let's get
High.
them subs up if y'all new
Obviously,
to the
you remember
channel.
what happens next. To the Zenin family, him having no cursed energy was a failure. To Gojo, it's his scariest, most frustrating strength, as he can't track
Shout
his
out,
movement.
Brody. Shout out.
And again, I'm sure no one's forgotten the state Gojo ends up in at the end of this fight. And of course, he doesn't stop there, as he then proceeds to end Amani's life, who, ironically, was someone in a similar situation to him, forced into tragic circumstances for being born a certain way. You could see it as Toji perpetuating this cycle of hatred, now dishing out onto others what was done to him. And after defeating Ghetto, we get the line that you guys, with all your blessings, lost to a monkey like me who can't even use Jujutsu. And I agree in part with what most people say about this, in that that's how he sees himself, and shows some jealousy towards those with blessings as he sees them in their powerful curse techniques. But I think it's more him taunting them, saying, shouldn't you have won, given that I'm just a monkey? He assumes everyone sees him the same way the Zenin clan does, as a failure with no curse energy, which isn't true, by the way. Even when he reappears later on, everyone is just terrified of him. No one is looking down on this guy, but this also comes back to his bottomless need for validation. You know, so he's pointing out to Ghetto, the Zenin clan, and himself, that I won again despite no cursed energy, even against these two. You were wrong about me. And this should have been enough. He's just taken down two special grade sorcerers stronger than any member of the Zenin clan, one of which is of course the strongest. He'd already proven them utterly and completely wrong about it, but it was never enough.
Sorry
He
for what?
needed more and more to continually self-affirm that they were wrong about him. He'd already proved it to himself. He'd mortally wounded Gojo, proved that even the strongest wasn't out of his reach, but it still wasn't enough. And why do you think that was? He even looks like he's seeking a bit of validation or comfort from this agent guy. As the two laugh and joke about the events of the previous days, Toji then asks him if he wants to go to a fancy restaurant together, and is met with rejection. And given the thought process we've seen from him, I've no doubt that, again, he assumed it was personal. That is because he's a no-cursed energy monkey. And the agent's line about, I know how you don't pay the bills for men, presumably refers to dates with women that Toji's been on, where he pays the bill for them. Given this guy knows about that, the pair are clearly pretty close, right? And yet even he doesn't see Toji as a friend. He doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. And I think that really stung him. But do you not think he's looking for validation in the complete wrong place? Maybe this shady agent and his brutal clan's opinions shouldn't be what dictates his life. As after all, why is he even here in the first place? Why do you think he suddenly came out of retirement to take on a mission like this? We'll come back to that in a moment, because as he walks along, he encounters the strongest, once again, risen from the dead. But even though Gojo lived, he'd already failed his mission. He'd essentially lost and even acknowledged that he's only really alive due to a slight bit of carelessness on Toji's part. The strongest sorcerer in the world, one above even the Zenin clan, one whose birth changed the very balance of the world, showed in his own way respect to Toji and his abilities. But that still wasn't enough for Toji. He had no logical reason to stay, but he wanted the undeniable, concrete proof, the ultimate FU to the Zenin clan, and everyone who'd ever looked down on him, that they were wrong. He wanted wanted to defeat the man who had everything he didn't, who was blessed with a technique that made everyone look up to him. And it's honestly completely understandable. Is it the right thing to do? No. Does it make sense for him to stay and risk his life for that pride? Not at all. But I get it. If you'd spend your whole life from such a young age, as Toji has, being called a failure, belittled, treated like trash, given that chance to show those same people that you're this much better than them, I think, truthfully, we'd all want to, logical or otherwise. And it's the essence of that feeling that I think so many of us relate to in Toji, a man with this kind of vengeance against the world, eager to prove it wrong. It's incredibly hard to fight that feeling, but whilst not doing so might not cause you to lose your life like it did for Toji, it could certainly cause you to waste yours. He wouldn't be doing all of this if he wasn't trying to prove that point, if he wasn't trying to self-affirm that he's doing well. And I think
Bro, what's this
so
thing on
many
his neck,
people
though?
do this. And it's one thing if it's something you're going to do
What's
regardless
this shit
and
in
you're
his
just
neck, though?
using it as a bit of motivation. I think that's the case with a lot of people going to the gym or whatever, but to warp your whole life around just proving a point to someone. You know, for example, chasing a career you hate, but it pays well so you get to show off to people. It may never be enough. You might be looking for validation in the complete wrong place. And so as he weighs up Gojo's moveset, Toji is convinced he can actually do this. He can handle red, he can handle blue, but something is off. Something isn't right. And I don't think this is some sort of instinctual warning that Gojo had something else up his sleeve. It's more of a, I shouldn't be doing this. And that to fight someone like Gojo of all people, purely to prove a point, is crazy. And he already knew that he couldn't beat Gojo in a fair fight. That's why he wore him down first. So it's not as though running would be a hit to his pride, but he just couldn't let go of his anger towards the Zenin clan and his desire to prove them wrong. And this to me just shows that it's never gonna end. As I said, him taking down Gojo and Geto the way he did already put him above the Zenin clan, who have no special great sorcerers, but he had to go further than that. And even if he beat Gojo here, then he'd have to find something else. It would have just never ended. And so Gojo's hollow purple blasts through him, and as he stands there, half his torso missing, he just looks so sad. Not at his defeat, but as himself for not having moved past something he thought he'd left behind. When we look at this panel here from holding Megami, I wasn't even sure if it was him at first glance. He just looks so different, so happy. And so again I ask, why do you think he came back to this life? We know his wife died, and obviously that's an awful, tragic thing to happen to someone, but to abandon his son because of that, to go back to the life of a killer when he was so happy before, I think the line, I had decided not to respect myself or anyone else, is very telling, because in what world is being a father and bringing up his son in a good house not respecting himself? Well, maybe in the brutal world of the Zenin clan, where instead he should be training himself and his son to be a soldier. They likely wouldn't have agreed with the way he'd chosen to live before his wife died, and no doubt he found himself internally fighting that at times. He thought he'd chosen to live that way regardless, and yet once again
Business as usual. A lot of people are dropping the album on the 1st of May. When's the 1st? Is that like next week or some shit? Alright, let me check. Oh, is this coming Friday, Amos? Is this coming Friday, Amos? The horrific price of creativity. more than your results. This actually seems like a good video. Hold up. The late bloomer's revenge. The silent praise.
Have you ever looked around and felt like everyone else got the memo except you? That while your peers were hitting milestones, building careers, finding their footing, you were still searching, still struggling, still becoming? It's feeling. There's a quiet desperation that comes from watching the world celebrate speed, from watching people half your age achieve what you haven't even started, from hearing that voice in the back of your mind whispering, "You're behind. You've already lost." But what if that voice is wrong? Not slightly off, fundamentally, dangerously wrong. What if the thing you've been calling failure, the slowness, the false starts, the years that feel wasted, is actually the most lethal form of preparation the human psyche is capable of? Not a detour, a deep forge, not a delay, a loading of pressure so intense that when it finally releases, it doesn't just move the needle, it breaks the scale. In this video, we are going to dismantle the myth that early success is real success. We are going to explore the neuroscience, the psychology, and the philosophy behind why late bloomers don't just catch up, they overtake. And we're going to uncover a truth.
I won't lie, bro.
so
Like I low
uncomfortable
key
that
feel like
most
I'm a late
self-help
bloomer, bro.
content
Like I feel like I'm a late bloomer, dog. Like, and like this should really be fucking with me, dog. You know, like maybe to like the other people who haven't like put in the amount of work I've put in, it seems like I'm further ahead. But like in my own mind, dog, when I like look at the amount of work I put out and like the results, like, bro, like this shit be getting exhausting, bro. Like this shit really do be getting exhausting, bro. But let's hop into it, dog. Let's hop into it, bro.
won't touch it. The people who bloom late aren't behind. They're building something the early arrivals can't compete with. The final revelation will challenge everything you believe about timing, talent, and what it actually means to grow. Before we go deeper, take a moment to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. This message isn't for everyone. It's for the person who has been quietly doubting themselves for years. The one who
Shit, bro.
needed to hear this.
Yeah, this is definitely talking to me, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Let me go drink some water. Then we can continue the video. out, y'all. Let's tap in. Let's tap in, y'all. Let's tap in. Had to drink some water.
A long time ago. Share it with them. Let's begin. We are raised inside a timeline that someone else drew. Graduate by 22. Land the career by 25. Find the partner. Buy the house. Build a life. And if you deviate from that schedule, even slightly, you're not just late, you're failing. But here's the thing. No one tells you. That timeline was never based on human development. It was based on economic convenience, industrial efficiency, institutional throughput. The education system doesn't release you at 22 because that's when the brain is ready. It releases you because that's when the funding cycle ends. Developmental psychologist Erik Erikson mapped human life into 8 stages of psychosocial development. What he found directly contradicts the cultural obsession with early achievement. Erikson argued that identity consolidation, the deep knowing of who you are, often doesn't stabilize until well into adulthood. For some, it takes decades, and the people who rush through that process don't skip it. They just delay the reckoning. Think about the number of people you know who achieved early success and then fell apart. The college star who burned out at 30, the young executive who had everything on paper but couldn't sleep at night, the prodigy who peaked at 20 and spent the next 40 years wondering what happened. Early success is not the same as deep success. Speed is not the same as readiness, and arriving first is not the same as arriving whole. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard wrote that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This is the cruel bind of the late bloomer. You can't see the pattern while you're in it. The years of confusion, the years of searching, the years of feeling stuck. From the inside, they look like waste, but from the outside, from the vantage point of hindsight, they are the foundation. And that foundation matters, because when someone builds fast on shallow ground, the first storm takes it down. But when someone builds slow on bedrock, what they create doesn't just stand, it endures. There's another dimension to this that few people talk about. The linear path doesn't just create pressure, it creates a specific kind of blindness. When you're on the conveyor belt, hitting every milestone on schedule, you never have to ask the hardest question. Is this actually what I want? You're so busy executing the plan that you never examine whether the plan was yours to begin with. The late bloomer is forced into that examination, not by choice, but by circumstance. When the path breaks beneath your feet, when the timeline collapses and leaves you standing in the wreckage of expectations, you're left with nothing but the raw question of who you actually are. And that question, as terrifying as it is the beginning of everything real. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. For the late bloomer, the obstacle isn't the delay. The obstacle is the belief that the delay means something is wrong. Once you discard that belief, the delay itself becomes the teacher, and it teaches lessons that no fast track ever could. Here's something most people don't know. The human brain doesn't finish developing until roughly age 25. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, risk assessment, and complex decision-making, is the last area to fully mature. This means that many of the life-defining choices people make in their early 20s are being made with an incomplete instrument. Neuroscientist Francis Jensen, author of The Teenage Brain, has shown that the young brain is optimized for learning speed, but not for judgment. It absorbs information rapidly, but lacks the architecture for deep integration. This is why early achievers often build impressive-looking structures on unstable cognitive ground. They can execute, but they can't always discern what's worth executing. Now consider the late bloomer, the person who didn't find their path at 20, who stumbled through their 20s, who maybe didn't hit their stride until 35, 40, or beyond. What were they doing during those lost years? They were building neural complexity. They were accumulating lived experience that wired their brains for pattern recognition, emotional regulation, and adaptive thinking.
Hold up, yo. What the fuck did I just hear? Did I lock the gate? I did. Fuck, bro. I'm getting paranoid.
They were developing what psychologists call crystallized intelligence, the form of cognitive power that actually increases with age. Raymond Cattell, the psychologist who distinguished between fluid and crystallized intelligence, demonstrated this. Raw processing speed peaks in youth, but the ability to draw on accumulated knowledge, make nuanced judgments, and synthesize complex information deepens throughout life. This is the late bloomers' secret weapon. Their mind didn't stop growing. It was growing differently, growing in ways that don't show up on standardized tests or on LinkedIn profiles, but that do show up in the quality of every decision they make. And here's the part that should terrify anyone who dismissed a late bloomer. Myelin, the fatty sheath that insulates neural pathways and speeds up signal transmission, continues to develop well into middle age. Every struggle, every failure, every period of intense learning was literally strengthening the wiring of their brain. The years they thought they were wasting were years of invisible construction. So while the early achiever was collecting accolades, the late bloomer was collecting depth. And depth, once it reaches critical mass, doesn't politely announce itself. It erupts. There's a term in neuroscience for this: consolidation. When the brain is given time and varied experience, it consolidates information into robust, interconnected networks. The late bloomer's brain has had more time to consolidate, more raw material to work with, more failures to learn from, more confusion to integrate, more emotional data to process. The result is not a slower brain, it's a denser one. A brain that doesn't just react, it understands. And understanding is what separates the person who succeeds once from the person who builds something that lasts. Speed gets you to the destination. Depth lets you know whether the destination was worth reaching in the first place. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It describes a phenomenon where individuals who endure prolonged difficulty don't just recover, they emerge fundamentally stronger, more self-aware, and more capable than they were before the hardship began. Psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, who pioneered this research, found that struggle doesn't merely build resilience, it restructures the personality itself. This is the late bloomer's biography. The years of feeling behind, of watching others succeed, while you questioned everything, of confronting failure, not once, but repeatedly. Those years were a pressure chamber, and pressure chambers don't produce fragile things. They produce diamonds. Viktor Frankl survived the concentration camps of the Holocaust. He emerged with one of the most powerful insights in modern psychology. Those who find meaning in suffering don't just survive, they transform. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl argued that the human capacity for growth is never more active than in the presence of adversity. The person who has never struggled doesn't know what they're made of. The person who has struggled for years knows exactly what they're made of, because they've been tested in ways the fast track never demands. Consider what happens, psychologically, to someone who doesn't succeed early. They're forced to develop an internal locus of validation. They can't rely on external trophies, titles, or applause to tell them they're on the right path. So they learn something far more powerful: how to trust themselves without evidence, how to keep moving without applause. without blueprints. This is not the psychology of someone who is behind. This is the psychology of someone who is dangerous. Because a person who doesn't need external validation to function cannot be controlled by its withdrawal. They can't be manipulated by status. They can't be broken by rejection. They've already survived the thing that breaks most people. Abraham Maslow, in his study of self-actualized individuals, found that they shared a common trait. They were not people who had easy lives. They were people who had integrated their suffering into a coherent sense of purpose. They didn't bloom early. They bloomed completely. And this is the critical distinction. There is a difference between blooming and performing. The early achiever often performs. They hit the marks, collect the signals, and assemble the external architecture of a successful life. But performance without integration is hollow. It's a building with no one inside. The late bloomer doesn't perform. They become. Every year of struggle wasn't just something that happened to them. It was something that built them. And the person that emerges from that building process has a solidity that performance can never replicate. The psychoanalyst James Hollis, a student of Jungian thought, wrote that the greatest burden of the second half of life is to recover personal authority from all that we have given it. The late bloomer begins this recovery earlier than most, not by choice, but by necessity, because the conventional sources of authority, the titles, the milestones, the social proof, were never available to them. So they had to find authority within. And internal authority, once established, is unshakable. It doesn't depend on quarterly reviews. It doesn't fluctuate with market conditions. It doesn't require an audience. It simply is. If this is landing for you, if you're recognizing your own story in these words, do something about it. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment with the year you stopped apologizing for your timeline. Share this with the person in your life who needs to hear it most. Because this message doesn't just validate late bloomers, it arms them. There's another layer to this that deserves attention. The late bloomer doesn't just develop resilience in the abstract. They develop a specific kind of emotional intelligence that only comes from sustained discomfort. They learn to read rooms because they've been the outsider in every room. They learn to listen because they've spent years not being heard. They learn to see what's really happening beneath the surface because they've had no choice but to live beneath the surface themselves. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, whose work on emotional intelligence reshaped how we understand success, found that the strongest predictor of long-term achievement isn't IQ. It's the ability to manage emotions, navigate social complexity, and persist through setbacks. These are not skills you develop by winning early. These are skills you develop by losing early and refusing to stay down. The late bloomer has been training in emotional intelligence their entire life. Every rejection was a rep. Every failure was a lesson. Every year of watching from the outside was a masterclass in observation, empathy, and strategic patience. And when they finally enter the arena, they don't just compete. They read the game at a level that the early arrivals never needed to develop. The cultural obsession with early achievement has created a collective amnesia about some of the most transformative figures in human history. Toni Morrison published her first novel at 39. She didn't win the Pulitzer until she was 57. She didn't receive the Nobel Prize in Literature until she was 62. Those decades of apparent obscurity weren't emptiness. They were accumulation. Every year of teaching, writing, thinking, and living poured into a body of work so powerful that it redefined American literature.
Shout out Kid D.
Charles Darwin spent over 20 years developing On the Origin of Species. He didn't rush to publish. He gathered, he
Hey, bro,
questioned,
Lulu.
he
This
doubted,
2K, bro, is
he
fighting me
refined.
with everything it
When the
has,
work
bro. I'm
finally
telling you,
emerged,
bro.
it didn't just
Trying to
enter the
reach it,
scientific
dog.
conversation. It
Like, yeah, this shit is
restructured the way
fighting me,
humanity
boy, but
understood itself.
yeah, we're finna fight
Julia
back.
Child didn't publish Mastering the Art of French Cooking until she was 49. Vera Wang didn't design her first dress until she was 40. Stan Lee didn't create the Fantastic Four until he was 39. Grandma Moses didn't begin painting seriously until she was 78.
Mm.
These aren't anomalies. They're evidence of a pattern that our culture refuses to acknowledge. The most enduring contributions often come from people who took the longest to arrive, because they weren't just building a product, they were building themselves first. And the self they built had a depth of experience, a reservoir of understanding, and a clarity of purpose that the early arrivals never developed. Malcolm Gladwell, in his essay on late bloomers, drew a sharp distinction between two types of creative genius. The conceptual innovator,
Do a reading
who arrives
comments live stream.
formed with a bold idea and executes
It's a
it
dope
young,
idea. I'm finna do
and the
it. Probably do
experimental
it tomorrow.
innovator, who works through trial and error,
We'll
who
dial out
iterates for
tomorrow.
decades, whose masterpiece emerges not from a flash of insight, but from the slow accumulation of craft and understanding. The experimental innovators are the late
Let me
bloomers,
write it on paper.
and their work, when it finally arrives, has a richness and texture that the conceptual innovator's work cannot match, because it was lived before it was made. Think about what that means for you. Every job that didn't work out was an experiment. Every relationship that ended was data. Every year you spent searching was an iteration. You weren't failing, you were drafting. And the final version, the one that carries all that accumulated wisdom, is the one the world will remember. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche captured this when he wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." The late bloomers' chaos, their years of searching, struggling, and feeling lost, is not a deficiency. It is the raw material of creation. And when that chaos finally finds its form, what it produces is not ordinary. It is extraordinary.
We're gonna do it
Precisely
tomorrow
because
again.
of how long it took.
Shout out for
There's
joining,
a
bro.
concept in Japanese aesthetics called wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection, of incompleteness, of things that have been shaped by time rather than manufactured in haste. The late bloomer embodies this. Their life is not the polished, symmetrical trajectory that looks good on a biography. It's rough, asymmetrical, marked by false starts and long silences. And it is, for that very reason, more beautiful, more honest, more human. The early achiever builds a monument. The late bloomer builds a cathedral. And cathedrals, as anyone who has stood inside one knows, are not built in a season. They take generations. But when they are finished, they outlast everything around them. Here's the part that makes the late bloomer genuinely dangerous. And this is the word, dangerous. Not inspiring, not hopeful, dangerous. A person who blooms late has something the early achiever can never replicate. They have been forged by time. They've had every illusion stripped away. They've been humbled by failure enough times to stop fearing it. They've sat in the dark long enough to see clearly in it. And when that person finally moves, they move with a combination of qualities that is almost impossible to assemble any other way. They have the hunger of someone who's been denied, the patience of someone who's been forced to wait, the clarity of someone who's questioned everything, the resilience of someone who's survived what should have stopped them. Robert Keegan, the developmental psychologist from Harvard, introduced the concept of orders of consciousness, levels of mental complexity that determine how a person makes meaning. Most adults operate at the third order, where identity is defined by external relationships and societal roles. The late bloomer, through years of internal reckoning, often reaches what Keegan calls the fourth, or even the fifth order, where they can hold multiple perspectives, tolerate ambiguity, and author their own value system, independent of cultural scripts. This is not just maturity. This is a cognitive upgrade that most people never achieve. And here's what makes it revenge. Not revenge in the petty sense. Not revenge against the people who doubted you. Revenge against the narrative. Revenge against the lie that your worth is determined by your speed. Revenge against a system that told you that because you didn't peak at 25, you were finished. The late bloomer's revenge is the quality of what they build. It's the depth of their relationships. It's the steadiness of their presence. It's the fact that while others are burning out, breaking down, and questioning whether any of it meant anything, the late bloomer is just getting started.
Hadi Csikszentmihalyi, in his research on flow and optimal experience, found that the deepest states of engagement and fulfillment come not from easy wins, but from the match between high challenge and high skill. The late bloomer has spent years building skill in the furnace of challenge, and when the match finally clicks, the flow state they enter is not casual, it's volcanic. And there's one more thing. The late bloomer has developed something that cannot be taught, bought, or accelerated. They have developed discernment. They know in their bones the difference between what matters and what merely glitters. They've spent enough time in the wilderness to recognize a mirage when they see one. This means they don't waste energy on the wrong pursuits. They don't chase trends. They don't get distracted by the noise that derails everyone else. When they finally move, they move with surgical precision because they've had years to figure out exactly where to aim. Daniel Kahneman, in his work on decision making, showed that expertise is not about speed. It is about the quality of the mental models you carry. The late bloomers' mental models have been stress tested by reality in ways that early success never demands. They've been wrong enough times to know what right feels like, and that knowing, that hard-earned calibration, is worth more than a decade of early wins. Now we arrive at the most important realization of all. The late bloomer's greatest advantage is not their talent. It is not their resilience. It is not even their depth. It is their relationship with time itself. Most people live in terror of time. They watch the clock. They count the years. They measure themselves against milestones that someone else set and panic when they fall short. Time, for most people, is an enemy. But the late bloomer has been through a transformation that changes this entirely. They've already lost the race. They've already missed the arbitrary deadlines. They've already sat with the devastating belief that it might be too late, and they survived it, which means time no longer controls them. They are the rare person who has made peace with uncertainty, with not knowing when, with trusting the process without demanding a schedule. That psychological freedom, that liberation from the tyranny of the timeline, is the most powerful competitive advantage a human being can possess. Because the person who is no longer afraid of being late is no longer afraid of anything. Think about what that means in practical terms. The person who has made peace with time doesn't rush decisions out of anxiety. They don't accept the wrong job, the wrong relationship, the wrong life just to feel like they're keeping up. They wait, not passively, not helplessly, but with the fierce patience of someone who knows that what's coming is worth the wait. And when they finally act, the action isn't contaminated by desperation. It's clean. It's precise. It comes from a place of clarity, not panic. And that is a quality so rare in this frantic, hyper-connected, always performing world that it almost looks like a superpower. The philosopher Michel de Montaigne spent decades in quiet reflection before producing his essays, a work that would influence Western thought for centuries. He didn't rush. He didn't compete. He observed. He lived, he thought. And he wrote when he was ready. The result was not just a book. It was a mirror for humanity. One that has never stopped being relevant. This is what the late bloomer carries. Not just potential. Not just resilience. A clarity so hard-won and so deeply earned that it reflects truth back to everyone who encounters it. And in a world drowning in performance and pretense, that clarity is the rarest currency there is. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you were expected to be, not who you were supposed to be by now, who you truly are. And that becoming doesn't follow a schedule. It follows a logic that is deeper than calendars, deeper than culture, deeper than the anxious comparisons that keep most people small. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not running out of time. You are loading. And when the late bloom comes, and it will come, it will not be quiet. It will not be polite. It will not ask permission. It will arrive with the full force of everything you've endured,
Everything you've learned, everything you've become in the years the world wrote off as wasted. That is not a consolation prize. That is a reckoning. And here's the final piece. The late bloomer doesn't just transform themselves, they transform the standard. They redefine what success looks like for everyone who comes after them. Every late bloomer who rises rewrites the narrative for the next person sitting in doubt, wondering if it's too late. It isn't. It was never too late. The timeline was always alive, and your existence is the proof. So if you are the person who has spent years wondering when it will be your turn, hear this clearly. Your slowness is not your weakness. It is your weapon, and the world is not ready for what happens when you finally use it. If this message reached you at the right moment, share it, not as motivation, as a
Yani. Yani. Ah, Jackal.
Just imagine, two kids in the same class, same age. When they started, neither of them had a single penny. But fast forward 15 years, one is still struggling to pay off debt, living paycheck to paycheck, but the other person started from zero and has already built a massive business empire. Why does this happen? Is the difference between them just money? No. The real difference is how their minds are wired. Becoming wealthy isn't just about luck, it's a 100% psychological game. Today we're talking about the surprising psychology behind people who win at life starting with nothing. If you want to go from zero to the very top, these shifts will change your life forever. Let's jump straight into it. Number one, take full control of your life. The first thing someone needs to build wealth from scratch is the belief that they are in control of their life. Let's be honest. Most people spend their time blaming the government, the economy, or their parents for their situation. But people who build their own wealth never point fingers. They believe that the steering wheel of their life is in their own hands. No matter what the government does or what problems the country has, they ask, what can I do right now to win?
Yeah, man, I've never been the type of person who cared about the government. I've always felt like the government. I've always felt like people who blame the government. I've always felt like people who blame the government, bro. Like, come on, bro. Like, that's the weakest thing you could ever do. Like, blame the government or like. Let's get on. This is the reason why I don't watch the news. I'm hardly on social media. If I'm there, I just post my music and I'm gone. Because the longer you stay on social media, you start ending up seeing the news in other forms like writing or in posts. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't try that shit.
This isn't just being positive. This is a tough psychological stand where you take 100%
Shout out,
responsibility
Chubby.
for
Shout
your
sub
own
up.
results. Number two, turn problems into opportunities. Wealthy people see the world differently. When an average person sees a problem, they complain about it. But true wealth builders see that same problem as a chance to make money.
is wealth? Wealth is the value you get back for solving a problem for someone else. People who start from zero are always looking for what is bothering people? How can I fix it? They don't chase money, they chase problems. When you become an expert in
This video is gonna be a boring video. I can already tell, bro.
You have dominated the charts without being signed to any label. Do you think there's um anything that a major could offer you right now, and you would be like, yeah? And if there is, what would it be that a major can offer you at this point that you would like, yeah, well, let's do it? Because I mean, you're already doing it
Everyone has a
yourself.
price.
You know what a major could have done for you, you're already doing for yourself.
Wait, just stop right there. Don't say everyone has a price, dog. That's how this nigga ended up working. Cause everyone, you think everyone ever is. Wow, come on. That's like asking a rich kid if he needs Nesfas. So Usi's out here talking loud against independent artists. Nah, I think people just have a misconception. The whole store. Okay, let me.
It's like what you're saying. Obviously, the cash injection. That's the best part about it. You know what I mean? But other than that, I'm not really like too like into that or like interested into that because I like owning my shit. Like you know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Yeah. With the whole label thing, there's just too much that goes.
Bro, like you already have money, dog. The reason why most people sign is because they're either broke or they're trying to change their life. Your life is already on a W, dog. So what's the point of signing? Like, there's no point of signing, dog. Like, there's literally no point of signing, bro.
Behind it, and I just want to drop my music, get my money, and carry on moving. Yeah. Have you been approached though? Have you been approached by the label?
Of course, he has been.
From the side? Yeah, a couple, but that's just what means still in the talks right now. So that's what I'm saying. Still
Being
moving.
hypocritical.
But I'm just like I'm thinking of it though, because of the cash injection. You know what I'm saying?
If okay, when
Sandy,
you
man.
do, not to say much on whatever that you plan on doing, because I mean, I think the biggest problem we've seen is when people receive the money and do something totally off, spend the money recklessly,
Like Lucas,
and
man.
boy, come on.
Damn, bro. Come on, bro.
And then they come back and cry and be like, yo, what is wrong?
And then they come back and cry. They be like, ah, dog, ah, but like y'all push you on, he did this shit.
You know what I'm saying?
That big so bitch, and nigga.
It's ish. But but that doesn't justify the clickbait comment. Like, the real reason why clickbait is not gonna sign is because he already has money. The reason why people sign because they don't have money, they're broke, and they want, as he said, a cash injection. But the difference between a cash injection when you're broke and like when you're rich, like the cash injection, it does help, but it doesn't really help because you're already like around the money already. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but him talking about Lucas raps, dog, that's kind of pop, dog. That's kind of pop. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
So now, what would be your approach?
But then again, like Abazwani, so
What is
actually,
I distracted myself.
Oh my God,
My
bruh.
first one.
So if
They have like
yes,
money
like
that
give
you
me
can
the money.
buy it. Yeah, let's put it like that. I'm going to Gucci, I'm buying it
Boy,
out.
come on now, please.
I walk in a Gucci, I buy it
Calm
out.
down.
The whole store.
I mean, obviously, we don't believe that because I think
Okay,
it's very
nah,
much smart.
nah.
Yeah.
Obviously not. There's different ways you can.
What are the comments saying? Bro, then if he's not signed to a label, then what's GMG? Brady's downfall is soon his pride is too much. I don't think so. He's already rich, guys. Like, he's already rich. I don't think you can fall off when you have money, dog. I don't think That's even a possible thing to do. My guy, you don't get how labels work. And Brady's just saying he wants to own his music and make his money alone, not sign to a label because you shine your shit too much. It's disgusting, dog. These new gens have no staying power. Once their grade 8 audience grows up, they will fall off. Underground gens just make mumble drug addict music for kids whose brains haven't developed yet. But besides, like, Brady already has money, dog. Like, what do we mean by fall off, bro? Cause I thought like the ultimate goal of everybody is to go inside the music, get the money, and get out. Like that's not my plan, but that's most of the people's plan when it comes to like the music. They wanna get the money and get out. So, you know what I'm saying? Ah. Broken beyond human. Hyena thought people was free food. Was it a sleep?
Watch this.
Bro, why you trying to run up on a hippo, especially in the water, though? That's stupid. But then again, we're talking about a hyena. What's he said? Is he gonna fall on you? Bro, and the hippo is way too big for you. Like, look at the size of this guy. Look at your size, bro. He hasn't noticed him yet. If that guy chases you, though, you know it's shy, right? Because it's fast as fuck in the water. I told you, bro. I told you this guy is fast as hell. Like, I told you. I told you, bro. What the fuck was he doing? You're not faster. Yes, sis.
4,000 pounds of the most territorial animal in Africa kills more people annually than lions, leopards, and cheetahs combined, and outrun a human at 20 miles per hour. And a hyena, an animal that kills lions for sport, looked at all of that and decided to take a nibble. The audacity alone deserves a documentary. Don't worry, it gets worse. The hyena then tries to walk away slowly through mud from a hippo.
Like,
the hippo turned around. The math wasn't mathing. What happened next was the most motivated 4,000 pounds of unbothered you will ever see in your life. The hyena made it out, barely. Moral of this video:
he's very lucky that the hippo only gave him one bite, but even then, that hyena felt that bite, boy. I'm curious, is this Torex page like an SDC page or what? I don't get it.
See, when you do that kind of thing, miss opportunities. What often happens is that you go and concede.
But what's poppin', y'all? The DDG haters have been working overtime, so much so that they
Shout
made
out, Sean.
and I just gotta sit there and take it on the chin and give myself, the what is it? What are they? The flogging that they used to give at the town square, because this account would go out and tweet, "Failed rapper DDG still can't sell tickets after changing price from $40 to $9." And keep in mind, DDG is doing something really, and these are Bruce drop 'em off fans, is what it seems like, because the beef between them escalated. And it says the Loft at Center Stage, which is in Atlanta, and that's April 29th, which is not anytime soon. Usually people are buying the majority of the tickets at the last day or two. And keep in mind, when you look at this venue in particular, it is a 1,000 person cap venue. So if there's only 75 tickets, yeah, they're gonna knock the prices down. And if it's almost sold out, 1,000 person venue for DDG is outstanding. But let me get into what I said first.
I was saying DDG was flexing that kids run the world and they're the best fan base to have, but this is the downside. You don't get people buying tickets. Now, this isn't all the way true because if you have a child audience and you are kid friendly and you make kids bop music, essentially, parents will buy the tickets to take their kids to your show, so you can have big shows. But DDG doesn't fall under this, obviously. And I would be proven wrong, and we'll get into that in a little bit later, because DDG would be streaming the entire tour, which is a first of its kind. We've never seen a rapper live streaming all the behind the scenes, all the before the tour, the before the shows, after the shows, all of that. So the same day was when DDG's first show was going to happen that I replied to this. So I thought, you know what? Let me watch the stream today. Let me see what it's in for. And it was a very good stream. So the first show was going to be in Detroit, Michigan. DDG's from Pontiac, Michigan, just same state. And he would show up to his old job.
Welcome home. Thank you, sir. Thank you. My first job. This is where I quit. This is how my YouTube career started. I used to work here, TJ Maxx, in the home department. I'm gonna show y'all what I used to do. Did you get fired from here? Nah, I quit. I made $200. I'm gonna show y'all the exact place I found out I made $200. This is where I was at right here, y'all. I used to be in the home department, bullshit, fixing pillows and shit. I'm gonna do somebody's job for me. Straight as shit. Alright, look. This is where I used to be. And then I picked up, like, I know exactly where I was at. Right here. Swear to God, my life, chat. Put it on my life. And I used to, that bathroom you was just in, I used to sit on the ground and hide from my manager because I ain't want to come work. Yeah. No, because I didn't want to work. I was tired of working. And I was right here. I checked my email, and it was from YouTube, and it said $242. Goodbye.
So this was the first job, and this is clearly a throwback for any of the OG DDG fans, because this guy's been doing content for a decade. And he talks about how, and he even shows it, he got his first $200 here. Not here, but he received the email that he got $200 from his YouTube, and he quit. And that takes a lot. I guarantee a bunch of people would have said, or if he was asking for advice at this time from his peers, they would have said, nah, man, just keep working the job, keep doing your thing on the side, until it catches motion, and
That's what they always say.
income with here. And he just spiritually felt dead in this place, clearly, and said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing what I want to do. And it clearly worked out for him. On top of that, he would also get the keys to the city from Pontiac, Michigan, where he's from, and the person, Mike McGinnis, would say the following: as mayor of the dynamic city of Pontiac, Michigan, I want us to present a key to the city to Pontiac's own Pontiac-made DDG. Just let me know when it works for your busy schedule and we'll make it happen. We can do it as soon as this Friday during the Pontiac Arts Crawl. And they would link up and make it happen.
How you doing?
So good, so good. How was the show tonight?
Great.
Excellent.
Council man, pleasure to meet you, bro. Nah, you good.
Council President Austin.
How you doing? Congratulations, bro. Thank you. How'd the show go? Great. Okay. Went great, man. Welcome home.
Keys to the city. Medusa has to give me my own fucking key. Well, Jules has to give me the key because I'm a Josie boy. So Jules has to give me the key to the city.
I was just like, man, we about to go congratulate somebody from ITA. Pontiac Huskies right here, though. That's all. I feel you. We trying. We just a little nervous. It's all right. You been on it out here. He's a valedictorian, so you making big moves. Yes, sir. For sure, man.
DDG.
We proud of you, man. It means a lot, because I feel like sometimes, like, hometown, hometown beats, they get a little envious in some ways.
Yeah, DDG's getting fat now.
Well, our city's produced some pretty amazing human beings, and you are definitely one of them. And so it's our great honor. You want me to do it now?
Hell yeah.
All right. On behalf of all citizens of the great city of Pontiac, Michigan, we're so honored for you to represent us around the world. We present you a key to the city of Pontiac, Michigan.
Keys to the city, man.
God bless you. Keep going. Keep going.
So that town don't back now.
type shit. Nah, this boy the goat, y'all.
Okay, excellent.
Thank y'all so much.
Can we click up with you before you go?
Hey, what did Greg Steakhouse find out?
Be hoping people knows.
Also, I think I might understand why DDG might not be making his weight class anymore, might not be boxing anymore. This guy got huge. This
Yeah.
guy's been hitting the gym. Pause on that.
Yeah.
But this is such a big moment for this guy. Well, you know, I know people will say like, man, they hand out the keys to the city to anybody. That's a hater comment right there. I mean, Travis got the keys to the city for Houston now, or Missouri City, Houston. I think Missouri City is in Houston. My Houston people, let me know. So this was a big moment, and then of course the most important moment comes to the show, because I'm looking at the show. I'm like, all right, how many people are showing up? Number one, and is it kids? Because DDG has more of a kid-leaning fan base now on TikTok and streams and clips and things like that, because he's involved in all these collaborations. But I was surprised in a good way, because this is DDG coming out to a show. So here, this venue was a couple hundred people. I think it's a 400 cap venue that he did in Detroit, Michigan. But you see the sea of people, and there aren't kids. None of these people are kids. These people are all in their mid-20s. Maybe some are in their early 20s, but you've got women here, you've got men here, you've got, hell, like, I don't even think there's one person that's 17, 16 here. And this just shows you the longevity of a DDG. It was also really cool to see him perform Givenchy, which was one of the first songs that took off for DDG in 2017. I remember when this song came out. I'm pretty sure I even made a video about it in 2017. That was like my first year on YouTube too, early in 2017. And this song came out on World Star, and just hearing him rap that, and he brought out the guy that made the beat, Trey on the beat, and he tried to have him do the beat tag, but it just moved too quick. So that was a pretty cool moment. And on top of that, this is why I think it's such high value for, if you're a DDG fan of his music, or DDG fan in general, to get tickets, because of the value that came alongside it. Because DDG, he had a couple of artists perform as his openers. So he had T.O., he had Baby Rich, and he had Snapdog, but he would bring out friends that would perform at the show. So he brought out Lakia, he brought out Tay B, and he would bring out Sada Baby. And of course, he brought out, he didn't bring him out. He performed Moonwalking in Calabasas towards the end. He performed Pink Dreads with Black Boy Max. DDG is somebody that is very, very good at keeping relationships. If you guys recall that long stream he did when, I think it was a month straight, I don't even know how long it was, but when he was making an album live on stream, DaBaby came in there, Shabuzi came in there, everybody that you could possibly think of came on there while he was producing an album in real time. These are all relationships that he's made within the music industry. He's maintained them. We don't really see him have beef with people of importance in music, at least we can say, because like he's beefing with Bruce, and Bruce has importance within the streaming scene, but Bruce is kind of on an island on his own. And that's why I say it's a good thing, because these people will do DDG a solid and show up to a show, because not only are they showing up to a show, but they're also performing for all of the people watching. And the viewer count was up to around like 12, 13,000 when the show was going on, in comparison to around the 6,000 to 7,000 mark when DDG was just, moving about in preparation for the show that same day. And some people will say, man, like fake views. You just talked about this other girl getting exposed for fake views in the video yesterday. Well, the difference here is that, number one, the view count increased a lot. And number two, you can see the subs that DDG has. This is how you know the easiest temperature check if someone's got real views is if they have a sub count. If DDG's got like a 13,000 sub count, which means that 13,000 people, or not 13,000 people, but some people may have gifted subs here and there, but those are real people that paid real money. And then people will be like, well, actually, you can fake. Okay, now you're getting too far into like wrapping a tinfoil around your head. Like, let's just.
Can you tell these are AI?
Not really.
Neither can
We out here, man. Let's get them subs up, chick.
Go to Artlist for the best quality.
Chill over there. Like, nobody's going through that much effort. And also, the cool thing about this is that every city and live stream associated with each city is of promotion of the tour. So right now, a bunch of people are seeing this, and they're probably like, wait, is DDG coming to my city? All right, let me see. I want to be there. And you can see him interact with all of his fans. So this is the first of its kind. Now, Soulja Boy did say that this was cap on my Instagram when I posted he's the first rapper to fully live stream a tour. We haven't seen Soulja Boy come back with anything. Maybe Soulja Boy live streamed at a tour stop, sure that may have happened. So, I don't know, maybe he was on Habbo Hotel or Club Penguin or something like that. That's a possibility. But what DDG is doing is the first of its kind. I'm not letting Soldier Boy take that away from him. That's not fair. So I'm really looking forward to how this continues. And if he's able to do 1,000 cap venue in Atlanta, which is Bruce Drop him off city. They're probably going to try to troll him, maybe some Bruce fans or something like that. But if he's able to do 1,000 cap venue at Bruce Drop him off city, when there was a couple hundred at DDG's hometown, I guess you could say, or close to hometown, Detroit, then it's going to look bad for Bruce. Because where can we even compare Bruce and DDG? Bruce doesn't make music, but what? What's that Protect guy doing? I think he showed up to one of his shows where there were like 200 people. So if DDG pulls 1,000 people in Bruce's city, now that's some cool stuff. I don't think Bruce should get dissed on stage. I don't want that situation instigated. I would have liked for it to subside, but like I said, DDG offered Bruce a peace treaty. He donated him some subs when he came back to streaming, and Bruce just decided to keep clowning him. So it is what it is between those guys. But I hope they can just stop talking about each other. I really think that's the only solution. And I hope this tour continues going well for DDG. This is also DDG's first headlining tour. I think the only tour that he had gone on before, or the last tour that he had gone on, was him as an opener for Kevin Gates. And people don't give enough credit for how difficult it is to stream, entertain, connect with the chat, and go on tour. Just going on tour alone and performing and going city to city is hard enough. And this guy is doing all of the above. He's probably just losing money or breaking even on the tour. He said that before when he went with Kevin Gates. I think he said he lost money being on that tour. So right now he's probably losing money. And it's definitely not the best thing that DDG could be doing to make money because of all the costs associated with transport and just all the venues and touring. But it's something that he's doing that he's really cool, and I think he's just investing more into his brand. And you can see that because there are people here that are grown that have been with DDG for 10 years, and not only did they just watch him when they were younger, but they're still invested in him and his career that they're willing to pay to see him live. That
great stuff, man. Wow, 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 wow. Oh, DDG's still streaming. I don't lie, bro. Like I just prefer like the simple chain type shit. I prefer like I don't like a chain that's gonna get people looking at me all types of way. This is why like I fuck with my little small chain like that one. I fuck with it.
Shit was a prayer. What you call it? A funny song? A parody? Jailing that, man. Man, nigga, for a rocket shit. In the chat, y'all.
Oh, people are here for the show. Bully. Dog, Easy just dropped that EP and disappeared, boy. Oh, he dropped like a visualizer as well, at least, man. Yeah, you can tell that they put some real money behind this track. They put some real money behind it, y'all. Oh, 1 million type shit. You can tell DJ Slick put some real money behind that shit. Oh, this Tory song is amazing. Yeah, but I'm not gonna play it, y'all, for obvious reasons.
Join Discovery Life today and get activated in 30 minutes. The future of life insurance, now.
You walk into a room, you smile, you say the right things, and yet something is off. You can feel it, a coldness behind people's eyes, a slight delay before they laugh at your joke. The way conversations seem to end just when you arrive. You tell yourself you're imagining it, but what if you're not? What if Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in the history of psychology, already knew exactly why this happens to you and why you'll keep repeating it until you face the one thing you've been running from your entire life? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will change how you see yourself forever. Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the deepest corners of the human mind so you can understand yourself and the people around you on a level most people never reach. Today, we're diving into one of Carl Jung's most haunting and most misunderstood ideas, the shadow self. Not the surface level version you've heard about on social media. The real version, the one that explains why people secretly, sometimes even unconsciously, pull away from you. Why some people feel an inexplicable irritation in your presence, and why you yourself might not even realize the role you're playing in
uma
all
fata
of
ba
it.
biskilini.
This isn't about making you feel
Scansele
bad.
lizinji.
It's about giving you the rarest thing in the world. True self-awareness. Let's begin. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche, your mind, your identity, everything you think of as you is only half the story. The other half lives in the dark. He called it the shadow. From the time you were a child, you learned which parts of yourself were acceptable. You were rewarded for being kind, agreeable, polite, successful. And so you kept those parts in the light in your conscious personality. But what about the parts that were not rewarded? The anger, the jealousy, the selfishness, the insecurity, the hunger for power, the fear of being worthless. Those parts didn't disappear. You just buried them. And here's the terrifying truth Jung discovered. What you bury doesn't die. It grows. It grows in the dark, beneath your conscious awareness, and it starts controlling you from the shadows in ways you don't recognize, but everyone around you does. Think about the person who constantly talks about how humble they are. That very act is the shadow, the repressed ego, screaming to be seen. Think about the person who preaches love and kindness on the outside, but is quietly vicious in private. That's the shadow leaking through the cracks. Jung said, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. In other words, the more you deny it, the worse it gets. And here's where it starts to affect your relationships in ways most people never connect. Have you ever met someone and felt an immediate, irrational discomfort around them, even though they seemed perfectly nice? That feeling is your unconscious detecting their shadow. Humans are extraordinarily sensitive social animals. We evolved to read micro-expressions, body language, and emotional undertones at a speed far faster than conscious thought. When someone's words and their shadow are misaligned, we feel it. We just don't know why we feel it. This is why someone can say all the right things and still leave people feeling uneasy. Jung called this projection one of the shadow's most powerful mechanisms. Here's how it works. When you haven't integrated your shadow, when you haven't acknowledged your own anger, envy, or insecurity, those traits don't just stay inside you. They project outward, like a film projector casting images onto the people around you. The person who never acknowledges their jealousy will unconsciously project it, accusing others of being jealous of them, seeing competition everywhere, always reading malice into innocent actions. And here's the devastating part. People around them feel it. They sense the distortion. They can't name it, but they trust it, and they pull away. This is why people may secretly dislike you without being able to articulate exactly why. It's not always what you say. It's the invisible force, the shadow leaking through the gaps between your words. There's another mechanism even more dangerous than projection. It's called the shadow trigger. When someone else's behavior bothers you intensely, disproportionately, it's almost always because that behavior is mirroring something you have buried in your own shadow. The person who is infuriated by arrogance often has repressed pride. The person who can't stand laziness often secretly fears their own lack of discipline. The person most disturbed by dishonesty often has truths they refuse to face themselves. This is Jung's most uncomfortable gift. Your strongest irritations are a map to your own unconscious. And when you react with that disproportionate intensity around others, they feel it even if you smile through it. It creates an invisible wall, and over time, it creates distance. Let's get specific. Based on Jungian psychology, here are 4 concrete ways you're unintegrated. Shadow silently repels the people around you, often without you ever knowing it's happening. Number 1, unconscious superiority. You might consciously believe you're humble, but your shadow, filled with repressed pride and the desperate need to matter, communicates superiority in subtle ways you don't notice. The way you slightly redirect conversations back to yourself. The half-second delay before you acknowledge someone else's achievement. The tone that drops just slightly when you speak to people you deem less than. You don't notice it, but they do. And they hate it, and hate that they can't quite explain why. Number 2, emotional leakage. When you suppress anger, grief, or frustration, when you insist I'm fine while your entire body says otherwise, that emotion doesn't vanish. It leaks through clipped sentences, through sighs, through a tension in your presence that makes others feel like they're walking on glass around you. People will begin to avoid you, not because of what you say, but because being around you feels exhausting in a way they can't define. Number 3, the martyr pattern. Some people carry a shadow filled with repressed resentment, often from years of people-pleasing, self-sacrifice, and putting others first. On the surface, they appear generous and selfless, but beneath it runs a current of bitterness. I give so much, and no one appreciates it. That current communicates itself constantly in the way help is offered with a loaded sigh. In the passive reminders of past favors, in the subtle martyrdom woven into everyday conversation, people sense the transaction beneath the generosity. And it makes them feel guilty and suffocated, not grateful. So, they distance themselves from you, and they may not even feel good
Man,
about
fuck people, dog. Fuck them. Most of us are fucked up anyway, man. Like, that video seemed really dope from the outside. In the inside, it's just, man, it's just some bullshit, bro. 15 magnificent peacocks, for real. Tell me why.
From the secret forests of the Congo to gardens that seem born from paradise, there are peacocks so extraordinary they defy the logic of nature itself. Creatures made of light, shadows, jewels, and cosmic colors, each more astonishing than the last. From the mysterious midnight to the celestial white peacock, from the imperial royal blue to the surreal violet peacock, today you will discover 15 birds so magnificent they seem not merely created, but designed by God himself. But before we begin, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now let's begin. Number 15, Congo peacock, the living phantom of the African forests. Long before zoos, scientific treaties, or wildlife documentaries, there were creatures hidden in regions so remote they seem to belong more to myth than reality. In the deep heart of the humid forests of Central Africa, in nearly untouched territories of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, lives a bird so rare and mysterious that for a long time many doubted it truly existed. The Congo peacock is not merely one of the most extraordinary birds on Earth. It is a living anomaly of evolution, a survivor from lost ages, a creature that seems to carry in its feathers the signature of something beyond chance. Unlike the exuberant peacocks known for monumental tails and almost impossible explosions of color, the Congo peacock astonishes precisely through contrast. Its splendor is not exaggerated, it is hidden. It is a beauty revealed slowly, like an ancient secret. Its body carries deep tones of metallic blue, iridescent dark green, and velvety black that shift color as light touches its feathers. Its neck seems coated in liquid sapphires. Its ruby eyes possess an almost supernatural intensity, and atop its head, a delicate crown of upright feathers forms an ornament resembling a forgotten king from a lost kingdom. But its true singularity lies in something few people know. The Congo peacock is the only true peacock native to Africa. That alone defies everything. While the most famous peacocks emerged in Asia, this species feels like a misplaced piece from another evolutionary puzzle, as if nature had hidden an entire secret inside a single bird. For decades, scientists were not even certain it existed. There were only rumors from local peoples, stories of a blue forest chicken, feathers found in villages, whispers shared among hunters, until in 1936, an unbelievable discovery confirmed the impossible. It was real, and perhaps even more extraordinary than imagination had predicted. But what makes this creature so fascinating is not only its rarity, it is its presence. There is something ancestral in its appearance. Something almost prehistoric. When it walks silently across the forest floor, among dense shadows and moss-covered roots, it does not seem to walk. It seems to emerge from the past itself. Its behavior is reserved, almost ghost-like. It spends much of its time hidden in vegetation, moving with a discretion that makes it nearly invisible. And perhaps that is precisely what allowed its survival for millennia. While other species evolved to impress predators or mates through extravagance, the Congo peacock evolved to disappear. Number 14, green peacock, the living jewel of Asia's lost kingdoms. There are beautiful birds. There are rare birds.
Shout
And
out,
then there
Short.
is the green peacock, a creature that seems less like an
Let me
animal
close off the
and
stream,
more like a
man.
living manifestation of beauty taken to excess. If someone tried to imagine a bird created to represent royalty, power, and perfection, they would probably end up describing something very close to this. But what is astonishing is that it is real, and perhaps even more impressive than imagination would allow. Inhabiting forests and plains of Southeast Asia, from Thailand to Vietnam, from Myanmar to Cambodia, the green peacock seems to carry in every feather the brilliance of an ancient jewel. Its neck is a river of liquid emerald. Its scales seem forged from polished bronze. Its iridescent plumage seems to ignite when sunlight touches its feathers. It does not reflect light. It seems to produce light. Every inch of this bird feels designed with obsession, as if beauty had been pushed to its limit. But then comes its tail, and everything changes, because it is not merely a tail, it is architecture. A living cascade of patterns, hundreds of iridescent eyes, greens, blues, golds, each perfectly symmetrical, like living mosaics, like stained glass made of feathers. When opened in display, it resembles a portal, an impossible fan, a visual explosion so complex it seems artificial. But it is not. It is biology, and that makes it even more unbelievable. There is something almost hypnotic in those feathered eyes. Ancient cultures saw them as symbols of divine vigilance, protection, immortality, power. It is not hard to understand why. Watching a green peacock display its plumage is like watching nature reveal a masterpiece. But its fascination goes beyond appearance. This bird has presence, posture, authority. Its walk seems calculated, majestic, like a sovereign crossing an invisible palace. It does not merely live in the forest, it seems to rule it. And perhaps that is why empires revered it. Asian kings associated it with nobility. Ancient temples portrayed its image. Legends said it drove away evil spirits, that it carried blessings, that it was a creature favored by the heavens. When a bird inspires religion, mythology, and royalty at once, perhaps it is not merely an animal. Perhaps it is symbol. But perhaps its ultimate spectacle is courtship. When seeking to impress a female, the male transforms into a phenomenon. He opens his immense tail, vibrates feathers at nearly invisible frequencies, produces subtle sound.
Let's close up the stream, man. Shout out, y'all. I'ma see y'all next time. It's been your boy, and I'm out. I'm gone, y'all.